Global Talk with Bishop Q, your favorite lunchtime talk show where we talk about different issues. Today, it is a special day. It is a Thursday. They normally call it a ladies' day or ladies' night or Ntonton or something like that. But if you've just joined us, I've got our very lovely queen who will be joining us, will be telling us more. We've been talking about a number of issues pertaining mental illness. And also in our evening show, we've been talking about mental illness, the importance of ibamba izinto eziningi kanjani, from marriage, families, school, work, everything that we always do, it always has mental illness affected to it. So today we've got a specialist that we've been covering a number of issues now. So I think this is our third or fourth show where we've been talking about a number of issues. We started off sikhuluma ngabo the warnings, behind it, how to prevent it, and what is mental illness. And when we started off talking about the clinical depression, sakhuluma anxiety disorder. We went on sakhuluma bipolar disorder. And official when we look at such things, we normally take them light and believe Guti izinto nje hayi abantu uyagula kanti only to find out ukuthi mental illness is a serious issue. It affects us on daily basis, so it's important that we need to listen and understand ukuthi what is mental illness. Sakhuluma ngedementia nesikhathini esiningi nokubamba bogogo, and it's now becoming a trend that dementia is becoming big. And then sakhuluma nge-attention deficit hyperactivity disorder that we also spoke about very recently. So today I wanted us to observe obsessive compulsive disorder. So if you've just joined us, this is Bishop Q on Global Talk, your favorite lunchtime talk show. We have our queen today, Uzi, who will be joining us. We are live on Facebook, Twitter. We are live on YouTube. We are also live nagu TikTok ngamhlanje. So we'll be getting questions from all over. People will be connecting with us. But good day, my beautiful queen. It is also another wonderful day where I see this pretty face, pretty smile coming to join us on our lovely show. How are you?
I'm well, and you, Q. Nice to be on your show. Hi to your listeners as well.
Good. Just jumping straight into it, we have spoken about a number of things, and today I thought maybe we could observe sense in obsessive compulsive disorder. What is that?
OCD, to put it simply and to put it in ngesikasi, is umuntu kimotholing trouble. So it's a perfectionist. Perfectionist is somebody who has these thoughts. I want to bring it into context maybe with iskati se COVID. So this person would be washing their hands a lot. Usaba ma gems, usaba ukungcola, usaba izinto ezi out of place. So this person is super perfectionist in everything. Now, one would think being a perfectionist is not a bad thing, but being a perfectionist becomes a problem when you pay too much attention to detail, because it puts you at risk of being too offended. Remember, not everybody in the world is walking around feeling like you are, Mauna OCD.
Yes.
So it will definitely make you anxious. So you'll be sitting next to somebody and maybe itayi yakhe ikrom ubaba wabantu, and when in your head so uyilungisile le tayi and uyilungise kaningi and uyibeke perfect, uzuyithola usuxabana nabantu because you can't tolerate the imperfections of other people. It also causes a lot of distress. We've spoken about anxiety, and it causes anxiety because you're sitting you're living in an imperfect world with a perfect mindset. And I'm saying a perfect mindset because lento ikuwe ingaphakathi. You are feeling this. You are seeing the mistakes everywhere. You are feeling that everybody else is incompetent or everybody else is not doing it the way you want to do it. And it's exhausting, Q. It's such an exhausting problem to have. I mean, I always joke with my colleagues and I say I have a little bit of OCD. I love cleaning for myself, but that's because I love cleaning. I don't have OCD in other areas of my life, but when it comes to my space, I want to do my own cleaning because then I'm satisfied. And that's the other thing, the OCD. You are not satisfied with something you would rather do everything yourself. And if you can imagine, it is absolutely exhausting. So yeah, to put it in context, that those are the issues with OCD. It's perfectionism, it's an inability to tolerate an imperfect world, and this then leads you to distressful thoughts. It can exhaust you emotionally, it can exhaust you mentally, it can exhaust you, and even damage your relationships with other people. Actually,
Wow. You make me think. Recently, I took my mother to the clinic, to the hospital. We were even chatting about it. And while we were there, we were sitting, some other lady was standing by ebondeni and angafuni ukuhlala phansi. You know, as we are talking about, good example, sometimes you pick up, especially with this thing here, COVID. She was standing at the wall and angafuni anybody angisondela, ingangisondeli. What if nine corona nonke? Nizongigulisa ngiphela amaphepha wami ngihambe. And everybody was like, do you really have to be doing so much drama? Angafuni ukubamba anything. And I remember makazobamba amaphepha neball pen, wakhipha some sanitizer, wagcobisa yonke into, and yeah, we were like, asali corona, but I think we are a little bit taking it too far. And uthusa nabantu, you know. I mean, it's okay as long as you ufake mask, you wash your hands, ufike endaweni, you sanitize, uphathe iball pen, that's enough. But if uzomemeza uscream umebondeni, you don't want people ukuthi bahlangane nawe. What's your take on such a person?
she's I mean, I think that's one of the things Corona has highlighted for a lot of people across the world. So yes, we've got normal fears with, you know, with germs and whatever. There's normal fears, but what Corona has done to abantu abane OCD is it's put them on hyper alert. Now to bring it into the classroom. If you remember with biology, when they were teaching us about adrenaline and the hormones that work in the brain, umuntu OCD is functioning on a lot of adrenaline, especially when they are in that space. The woman you're describing, she's functioning on a lot of adrenaline, and she's functioning in a constant state of flight or fright, to such an extent that it cripples her. And abantu abane OCD, a lot of them become crippled by this OCD because they can't work with people. Yabona abantu abane OCD go work from home, they are very happy because they are in a controlled environment. But when they have to go back to the office, mele agibele itaxi, mele ahlale eceleni komuntu njengoba bengichaza, it is such a stressful experience for them. So it is, I mean, I can understand where that lady is coming from. And like you're saying, we are all living with the fear of Corona. But when it gets that bad, it's definitely something worth looking at. It's absolutely something worth looking at. And unfortunately, Aina OCD does not have a tablet. It's a behavioral thing. So what we do when we're managing it or we're trying to help a person process it is through behavioral therapy.
Okay. Also, there is a therapy that one could go through, and obviously, with a little knowledge of therapy, obviously, number one, it's also the issue of accepting to say, "Yebo ngiyagula, I have this illness." And how often is that good? Somebody can be able to accept and say, "Yebo nginenkinga."
With OCD, unfortunately, it's not that simple. I find it depression. In depression, you acknowledge that I've got depression, you take the medication, you speak to a therapist, you try to suss out the issues and break them down and what caused your depression and all of that. With OCD, yes, we've got behavioral therapy, but the downside or the difficulty with OCD is bayazazi abantu abane OCD usually. They'll tell you, this is how I am. I'm a perfectionist. I want things done this way. The problem is how they affect the people around them. So I mean, imagine being raised by a mother with OCD. I mean, put yourself in that picture. As a child, you are 2 years old, ufuna ukudlala ngomhlabathi, ufuna ukudlala emanzini, and your mother wants you perfectly clean every day. You are not allowed to wiggle on the chair. You can't. So the impact of OCD, yes, it's frightening and it's taxing on the person with OCD. but the larger impact is actually on the people around them, because they don't know how to deal with you. And just because you've got OCD, it doesn't mean you're going to give birth to a child with OCD. A 2-year-old
Right.
is going to be a 2-year-old. Uzofuna ukudlala ngebhola, uzofuna ukungcola, uzofuna ukudlala ngepende, uzofuna ukwenza izinto ezenziwa ezinye ingane. But with a parent on the OCD, that becomes such an impossible situation.
Yo, like I can put myself already in that position where umntwana ukuthi akazi ukuthi adlale ahleke or astop nokuhleka and do all of those things. One other thing that I normally would do mangihamba ngise-mall, you'd normally see ama-parents mabahamba nabantwana besathithisa umntwana ukuthi hey, hamba straight ungabheki eceleni. And I would argue now, how do you expect a normal child makase-mall, e-mall kunama-lights, aircon, there's things to play, it's a different environment. Obviously umntwana would want to jump around and explore, and I can imagine ukuthi umntwana okhula anomzalo onjalo, umntwana noma ahamba komele ahambe account the number of times ahleka ngayo or afuna ukwenza anything ngayo nanoma adla. I can imagine there are people that thina sikhulele elokishini sidla amakota. I can imagine ukuthi mina mangifuna ukudla ikota ngiyibamba so. And obviously if ngihlezi nomuntu onjalo umzalo wami analeli this thing lokhuluma ngayo, obviously I can't eat ikota kanjalo. It means I have to slice it, prepare it, put it in a plate and ibe straight. Microm, it means I cannot eat it.
Let me actually put you in the picture.
Yes.
Umuntu one-OCD, it is very rare ukuthi uzomthola e-mall unless there is a pressing issue emenza ukuthi aye e-mall. Those people, it's either uzofika very early e-mall if they call it ayidinga ye-mall, uzofika very early before kugcwala. Ngeke umthole e-mall nge-peak hour leyo muntu because akakhoni ukubekezelela isiphithiphithi leso. Ngeke umthole e-restaurant because yena ekhanda lakhe useyayibuza bakuprepare kanjani, did they wash the lettuce
And how
did
clean the food is.
how clean is the food, the slices ezetamati islicewe ngendlela ayithandayo noma angayithandi, mhlambe bayislice ngama-circles and yena udla ama-triangles. It's an issue, it's a proper issue. So don't worry about bumping into somebody with OCD at the mall. Your chances are actually very, very slim. They would rather be in a park because they can see the birds and whatever, but even that, they want to be in a space they can control. I think the perfectionist in them speaks to being in a space that they can control. And if they feel that it is a situation that will put them out of control, they are very highly unlikely to engage in that space.
Yeah.
So imagine again being a child in that situation. Ukhulungayazi mall.
Just because umzalo wakho is uncomfortable with the people and the way they prepare things and so forth. So tell us, just take us through slightly ukuthi now umuntu la ekhaya has that sickness, now sifuna ukumisa ukuthi ayolashwa. Normally what is the process ukuthi ulashwa kanjani? Is there any particular medication ebakhona, or is there any processes lezi kwamele ahambe zona ama-training or anything?
Again, it becomes an issue of, is it a problem, i-OCD yalo muntu? Kukhona abantu abane-OCD functional. And by functional, I mean they've got these thoughts, they've got these tendencies of cleaning and decontamination and whatever. They've got thoughts of, taboo and, taboo thoughts and impulses and that kind of thing. But is it a problem is it a danger to you? Now, when we do psychiatry, we look at specific reasons for treating something. Is the person a danger to themselves? Is a person a danger to others? Is a person a danger to their environment? If the person doesn't tick these boxes, I would say understanding niphilisane naye ngale ndlela afuna ukuphilisana ngayo, because at the end of the day akunapilisi. It's just behavioral therapy, and if behavioral therapy is only necessary if it's affecting the other person. Just because I want to wash my hands 100 times a day, it's my problem. It becomes an issue if ngigeza izandla zize zixibuke, then it's an issue. because
Okay.
you do get such extreme people ukuthi ugeza izandla aze ayihuhle ngebrush every time makageza izandla uze ayihuhle ngebrush ukuze uzumbone na ukuthi cha iskin sesiyasuka, then it's an issue. But if I'm not at that extent, if ngithanda ikomishi lami lihleli on the left and not on the right, it's my issue, it's my immediate environment. Remember, every person has what we call a personal bubble. So if
Yes.
my issues affect my bubble and not yours, it's okay. In other words, I'm saying fundani ukuphila naye lo muntu,
Oh,
zamani
yeah.
ukum-understand, and because this thing ayivesi yenzeke from out of the blue, you will see these behaviors as umuntu ekhula. So nizokhula nimjwayele ukuthi umamncane unje mawumenzela itiye kumele uqala ufudumeze ikomishi before ufake itiye ngaphakathi because the cup must be warm, otherwise she doesn't want the tea inside, all those things, you learn to accept those things. Again, if it's not an issue and it doesn't put you in danger, wena muntu ongaphandle, if it doesn't, it's fine. As long as asakhona ukuya esikolweni, asakhona ukuphasa, asakhona ukusebenza, asase-functional, it's okay. Masingahluphani. Really, I
Yeah.
think OCD is just one of those mental illnesses where I am allowed to own my illness. I
Okay.
find in a depression where I can be depressed to the extent of trying to take my life. Abantu be-OCD, chances of taking your life are almost rare because you must remember yonke into ayiprocessor. So uma ecabanga take my life, uyacabanga ukuthi sure ngizoyisika, ngizobleeda, kuzongcola, isidumbu sami sizongcola. That's what they're thinking in their head. So I'm not even worried about that person. I am worried uma engasakhona ukuphilisana nabanye abantu.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
we are worried because as long as asaphilisana nani, but eyenza lezi zinto azenzayo in their bubble, asimthandeni, simamkeleni, and it's okay. It's really okay.
All right. Now, we are learning today. This is Global Talk with Bishop Q, your favorite lunchtime talk show. If you've just joined us, we are talking to Z, who has been assisting us and advising us in terms of mental issues. And today we are specifically looking into a sickness that is called obsessive compulsive disorder. I've also opened the guest room. If you have any questions, you can connect and then we'll put you through so that you are able to ask a question. Sometimes there is somebody that you know. Sometimes there are questions that need clarity, and obviously some of us, we are not well educated when it comes to such issues. Hence, we have brought in Uzi to come through and give us a better perspective, a better idea, a better insight to good mental illness and how do we deal with it. Today she's sharing the issue ukuthi as long as umuntu angazilimazi, it's fine, singaphila naye, and but it's only masecala ngathi yamlimaza, and then we can start paying attention and making sure that we consult people of her caliber to come through and assist whoever mhlambe losiphila naye in our family or probably in our environment to make sure that impilo iba much better. I also remember when I grew up, there was a friend of mine bekalungisa imoto. He was a mechanic, but athanda ukusebenza ngama-engine and everything. But I tell you, you will never in his entire working day find him izandla zakhe zigcwele oil, but yet he was a mechanic. He would make sure with every 20-30 seconds unebhakethi elinensipho liyaskrabha izandla abuye la yobamba i-oil. I'm like, but usebenza nge-oil, why don't you wash ntambama? And he was like, you'll never understand, I need to be clean. I was like, wow.
Again, he was functional. All right. So what we do when we're trying to manage your OCD, let me actually break it down for you. There's 4 types of OCD. All right.
Okay.
The first type is the one we've been speaking about, and the most common one. Yileyo cleaner no decontaminator a lot. So the person worried about germs, worried about ukugula, avoid ama-sources of contamination, avoid indawo ezingcolile, avoid indawo ezingathi zizomfake, at risk of getting dirty.
Okay.
The second type is about symmetry and ordering, and this person ufuna izinto zihlale ngendlela thizeni. Those are the ones we would call those are the ones I refer to as machobolo, akogai. Yena the copy 20 di dule ko pele, di saucery on the right, whatever, everything must sit ngathi zihleli ku-catalog ye-magazine.
Mm.
And then there's the ones with forbidden thoughts. So these thoughts can be violent in nature. They have thoughts of guilt and shame. This person is persistently questioning their thoughts. They are persistently, questioning, every thought that comes in. By dissect a lot.
Yes,
They overthink, but to
yes, yes,
such an extent that they can't make a decision. So they overthink and overthink and overthink, but it gets to the point where ucabanga kade, but akazafike to a conclusion on that thought, And then the
Okay.
last one is hoarding. Now, I know hoarding is going to be a bit of a tricky issue because we've got a lot of elderly people, and siyabazi ukuthi ogogo bathanda ukugcina yonke into.
Yeah.
So if you are one of those people who you like keeping izinto zakudala, or you like buying the same kind of things,
Yes.
you are obsessively buying the same type of item, even if you don't need it. You struggle to throw away izinto because mawuyithinda, so uyazithenga lezi zinto, but you can't throw them away ungasazidingi because mawuzithinda then uzozingcolisa. It's very, very tricky. It's different to hoarding le yokubeka izinto eziningi from when you were a child and whatever. So when you're managing OCD based on these 4 types, you are actually managing something different each time. So depending on the type of OCD the person has, we will then try to, when we do therapy, we try to expose you to that thing or isabai. So for the ones who, I'll use, like I'm saying, the most common one, le abantu abasabukungcola. We will try to expose you to dirt. So when you come into a program, you will find the therapist maybe uzokunika slime. Now, slime is, for those who don't have kids, slime is this, I can't even explain it. It's something you stretch. It feels very funny on your hands.
Okay.
And we will let you play around with slime. Now, there's different kinds of slime. Slime is very, very slimy. It feels something. It feels very, very, it's a sensory thing. So we expose you to that. We'll expose you to that kind of thing. We'll expose you to playing with sand. So we take you back to the sand pit. We crash. We let you play around. But we can't do this bam, we can't throw it at you. We need to do it. We need to pace you. We expose you to this thing. We'll let you paint your hand. Paint your whole hand. You know what we used to do at crash? Open the sand like and put it on a piece of paper.
I remember that.
We will let you do things like that. So that, but the trick is, we are spend the sand like you put your handprint. And we need to extend this time a little bit every time you come for therapy. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get you used and to get you comfortable to things not going perfectly. With hoarding, we the hoarding type, we try to come up with a way in which you can remove the things you don't need without exposing yourself. So if it means you get gloves, ufake lama glove lanka asiwasebenzisayo thina siyabomama for ugeza izitsha, these long gloves. So we get you to get gloves, and then that will allow you to touch the things without exposing yourself. But this is all a process. We need to teach you, we need to talk you into this, to convince you what hasn't. Actually, if you put on the gloves are new, so nobody's worn the gloves, you're not at risk of germs. You can still remove the items you don't need. All kind of things. It's quite a process. OCD, because in medication, it's quite a process. But we also, when we are doing therapy, try to get to the bottom of what is the cause of your OCD. Because maybe your OCD is as a result of trauma. So if you are raised by a parent with OCD, your risk of getting OCD is higher because you are mimicking this behavior. If it's a result of depression, or you've went through a traumatic experience. So, and by traumatic experience, I want to speak about something like rape. Traumatic rape. I've nursed a few patients who've had a traumatic rape where they were raped and then afterwards they were violated with bottles and that kind of thing. umuntu wakhona mhlambe aphile, ne? So what does
Okay.
this person do? They spend the rest of their lives umegeza, ugeza akasagezi ukugeza komuntu normal, ugeza because ufuna ukususa this. Understand? And this now
Yes.
becomes their behavior. So akazalwanga
Yeah.
nayo, but it's something that happened that triggered this. So depending on what caused the OCD, we are then able to put you into a proper program that's looking at you as an individual and assist you to work your way backwards. Again, it takes a long time. It takes a very
Wow. Wow. If you've just joined us, this is Global Talk with Bishop Q. We are speaking to Z, who's analyzing the obsessive compulsive disorder. Uyangithusa manje sekakhuluma nge-rape ukuthi now I can pick up the link to say I've seen abanye abantu ngathi baba obsessed nyana. Welcome Tandeka for joining us. Now, if you want to also get on the guest room, you want to ask a question. Now, this is becoming very intriguing for me. Masakhuluma nge-rape ukuthi I've seen some girls abanye bahluleka nomageza umbona nomageza ugeza futhi makageza laphansi ageze ngendlela ethusayo and everything. We have a question from Utapelo Kwakwadi from Bloemfontein. What happens in a relationship if uthandana nomuntu onale disorder? I-affecta kanjani relationship? Whoa.
The truth is, it's going to affect your intimacy depending on the type of OCD. So
Yes.
if I want us, because we're talking relationship, we'll go back to the example that I just made about umuntu ozigeza kakhulu. This
Right.
person, every time umumthinda, mawuzomthinda, mele uxubhe, mele axubhe, mele nigeze, there's a whole ritual before you engage in intimacy.
Yes.
Mawuhlala naye, you need to understand. You need to be a very patient person to be in a relationship nomuntu no-OCD, because uzoyibona from very early on.
Yes.
I mean, I'll make an example ngento elula. Akafuna ukushwabana. You can't have a crease. Umehleli nawe, mele ahlale ngendlela thizeni ukuthi isiketi singashwabani. That in itself should tell you there's something.
Yes.
Akafuni makaqale angcola kuba ne-stain mele ayoshintsha. They can't tolerate wena mawuyithela ngetamasoso mawudlikota uthathi i-wipe uthatha impaduku uyasula uqhubeka nempilo yena akakhoni kumele ashintshe akhumule angene ebhavini ageze aqale phansi. So it requires a lot of patience. Can they get into relationships? Yes. Is it easy? No.
Yo.
It is very helpful if you see ukuthi umuntu wakho is having these kind of issues. Join them in the therapy. Hamba naye ku-therapy. Because what therapy will do is it will teach you, as much as ifundisa yena how to deal with the disorder, it will teach you how to deal with her or him. You understand?
So understand kanjani?
Yes. They're not an unlovable group of people. They are human beings after all. So they are lovable. They just require somebody with a degree of patience, with a great degree of patience.
Yo, I imagine now you make me think of all some other girlfriends that I mean, nivuka ekuseni, you've slept nonke benilapho nonke, and uyavuka ekuseni uyazilula, it's in the morning, like, hello my love, athi hayi wenzani? No, ngiyacabuza kusekuseni, athi no, hamba ugeza kuqala mase, but besidla sonke, no, hamba ugeza kuqala, ugeza amazinyo, ugeze, waqeda ukugeza, and then that's the only time nami ngigeze nami, then we can only start kissing, like, romantic affair. I mean, what the heck?
There's degrees. Remember, there's degrees. There's degrees to this. I mentioned myself earlier, and I said, naked trouble when it comes to cleaning. As a result, I don't think you guys no anti life for that reason. I am very hands-on. Does it mean cleaner or no? It's a me thing, but I know it about myself. And you'd be surprised. I've got my lazy days. So mineyami, it's probably on the very mild side. I've got my lazy days where, you know what? I think, I always laugh and I say God cured me when he gave me kids, because my kids are the complete opposite.
Mm.
Bakhuluma yonke indawo when they do whatever. And you can only shout for so long. And it helps ukuthi I've had the opportunity of going to school and learning about this. So imagine umuntu ongayazi lento, ongayifundelanga, ongakwazi ukuyibekezela. It's more
No.
difficult. So
Yes.
just, that's why I get it. If you've got a relationship or you are related to somebody who's, exhibiting signs and symptoms of OCD, should
Right.
they opt to go to therapy, please go to therapy with them, because it will be so beneficial for you to know ukuthi this is what this person is going through in their head, so that you're not judging.
I read one of the comments by Usla, who's in Cape Town. Athi naye uke waba nomuntu oke wabanjalo, that often centers on the themes such as fear of germs and or the need of arranged objects in a specific manner. Kusho ukuthi bekathanda ukuklina naserumini. Uthi symptoms were treated by talk therapy. Ukhuluma ukuthi they ended up bahamba baya ku-talk therapy, and that helped them kakhulu. Thanks very much for the opinion. So there is something that we call a talk therapy, where ukukhuluma kuyakwazi ukumsiza ukumlapha umuntu one obsessive compulsive disorder.
I-talk therapy is a standard part of therapy. So akuna-therapist ozongena kuyona angakhulumi, all right?
Okay.
You're going to come in, you're going to talk. And
Okay.
talking helps you to unpack. You've known me for years. So you and I are able to talk about things I can't talk to somebody else about.
Right,
And the stronger the relationship, the therapeutic relationship, the more you're able to unpack. You go to, actually, ngikhule ngihlushwa ikhanda, maybe ikhanda lami lisuka ekutheni nokuthi, and I'm just making an example about headaches, because people get headaches, and there's people with chronic headaches and they don't know where they started from or why they have them. But in talk therapy, what the good thing about talk therapy is you are assisted to unpack the cause, to unpack what maybe this partner was somebody okhule nomzali on OCD, or a punitive parent. I haven't touched on that. Mawumzali othanda ukushaya, othanda everything umntana yenzayo uyathetha, you are harsh. What you are doing is you are shutting down the normal growth process of the brain. So you are building walls in this child's mind. Uthole abantu abasaba experience in life. Now I'm talking as a motivational speaker. You get people who are scared of experiencing life, but they are scared of experiencing life because every time they tried to experience childhood, bebeshaya. I'm not justifying ukujumpa embedeni, before parents put their hands on their heads. I'm saying umntana umeqala ukujumpa ebhedeni, uzomkhuza, nana uzowulimala, uyamkhuza. Unana umbone ukuthi yazi cha lo mbhede uyambiza straight, there's a spirit calling him on the bed to jump. Umkhuze. Won't get to the point yokumshaya engekalimali. Ungamshayi engekalimali. You are not achieving anything. All you are doing is you are building a wall. We can't stop our children from experiencing life. As much as we want to, we can't. Because once we do that, we are risking them becoming OCD in their adult years. And OCD normally starts in your late teens, adulthood. And that means it's a reflection of a lot of what was happening in your childhood. Uthole umzali athi, angifuni umntana obhemayo, angifuni umntana ophuzayo mina la ejardini. What is the first thing you are going to do when you get to college? You are going to drink and smoke, because your whole life you weren't allowed to do it.
Oh yes.
You understand? Wenzeni masufika college, akusenamzali okhuzayo ngithi. You do it usuyenza kakhulu. You go overboard, you become psychotic, you start experimenting with drugs and all those things. Again, I'm not saying hlala nomntana akho niphuze ibhiyano ethu endlini. Have
Yes.
boundaries, but also accept certain behaviors to say mntanam ngiyakubona ngathi curious kancane ngento enjena. Let's talk about it. Let's test it. Here's my glass of beer. Take a sip. How's the taste? Talk it out.
Okay.
Because umntana is a human being who comes out feelers and everything open. They need to experience things to tick them off. That's life. You must experience things to tick them off. Freud, one of the great psychological minds, says you cannot jump a stage. You cannot jump a stage. What's jumper? It will catch up with you phambili.
In a later stage. Wow.
So lo mzali ongafuni ukuthi umntana akhe akhase because ukukhasa kungcolisa amadolo. That child, you are actually destroying their emotional development in adulthood. Because ukukhasa kungcolisa amadolo, yes, but it builds resilience. Because mawukhona ukukhasa ku-gravel, ukhona ukukhasa etilini, ukhona ukukhasa kwi-pavement, you are learning different. Okay, impilo ayikho smooth. You understand? It's a very complex thing. Childhood development is very broad and very complex. But the reason there is such a thing as childhood development is to try to prevent certain things from happening in adulthood. As a child, you are breeding this person who doesn't know how to express their emotions as an adult. What do we get? GBV. Because everything, manje, one small thing happens, a small trigger, the person becomes super violent because they've been piling up this anger, these emotions over years.
Wow. Very interesting. Good afternoon, Marampine. The guest room is still open. If you have any questions, kuzwakala ngathi ukhuluma kahle. Abantu basaba nokubuza nama question. Kushuthi ufundisa kahle kwamele uhambe uyoba uthisha.
I missed my calling.
But my interest, Kula, when you also talk about jumping stages. I can imagine somebody or jump stages thize and mhlamba zange adlale awumntwana or kunezinto that were not done at a particular age. Now I get married, now that thing gets the hang of me. Now I need to be a father and sitting down. Hey, man.
Just to officially put your guests at rest, OCD, I think we've covered the bulk of what OCD is about, as far as the compulsive behavior and how we can get them help. And what we are getting into now is development, childhood development, adulthood development, because it's a different topic, and I think it's a topic we'll continue in our next sitting. But just to start it off, jumpy stage sokujiva. Yabona lezi alikazohlangana nazo at 45 efake i-leather skirt sesigcebhe efake i-stomach out.
Yes.
Kukhona istage asijampile mntakababa. I am not saying if you've got the body to do it, don't do it, ne? But there's a way of doing it at my age, and there's a way of doing it in your 20s. Right. If you are doing it at my age, competing, nama 20-something-year-old, there's a problem. It means college stage was jumping. You understand? But there's a bigger conversation to be had about jumping stages. I'll go back again to issues of crawling and walking and running.
Right.
Crawling teaches you resilience, and it teaches you that life is not smooth. What happens if my child doesn't crawl? Your child is going to have poor emotional intelligence as an adult.
Okay.
Yes. Ubona labantu abanenhliziyo encane, abantu abangakhona ukubekezela izimo ezinzima empilweni, abakhasanga. If I had to sit with that person's parents and ask for a childhood history, that person did not crawl. And a lot of people are going,
Wait a minute. What?
Abakhasanga Pew, they did not crawl. Yabona le genge yamanje laba bakhula bengena ikaya emadolweni. Basenkingeni Q. I don't want to lie to you. Basenkingeni. You need to get to a point where you are wearing your scars with pride, because those scars determine how many more scars you can handle.
I love that. I need to write that down. I might write a book about it. Maybe wear your scars with pride.
Absolutely.
Yes. Hey, uyangithusa.
Hayi ungathuki Q.
Uyangimangaza next one. Wear your scars with pride. So you are saying ukuthi it's important that you need to go through some stages, even if it means umntwana burning isandla sakhe kancane, but it's important ukuthi nakusasa azi ukuthi le ihitha akudlalelwa kuyo.
Amen. Uzowazi kanjani ukuthi yashisa? Uzozwa ngawe. What happens the day you die as a parent? Uzozwa ngobani?
Yeah, no. I'm speechless. No, I'm speechless.
You know, there's something that we love as people, masinabantwana abancane, as moms.
Yeah.
I'm a walking ring. There's a whole discussion to be had about walking rings.
I was about to ask you about my walking rings and say, aren't they defeating the whole purpose yokukhasa and umntwana ngezandla and enjoying the flow nokungcola nani?
Yes. Occupational therapists are actually not big fans of walking rings for two reasons.
Okay.
The first reason you've mentioned, they are defeating the purpose of learning. Mele umuntu afunde ukuyisukumela and stand up straight. Abambezele, ayekele abambezele, ayekele azbalance. Ukufunda ukuzbalanza as a person. Now think of what I'm saying. Walking rings stop you from learning to balance yourself.
Yes. Yes.
So what do? Utshwayela ukunqika ngalento ehambelayo. What do you do as an adult? Utshwayela ukunqika ngabantu, utshwayela ukunqika ngento engasiyone yakho. Because it's not a natural. Do you see, it is so important to be having these conversations with young moms, and this was my passion when I was a junior nurse. So when I started and I was working with antenatal. So my classes when I was teaching in antenatal were focused on such things. Yes, what to eat when you're pregnant and all those things, but I was also teaching you how to raise your child, to say stay away from walking rings. Yebo umntana akhase phezu kwamanzi, akhase phezu kodaka, azi ukuthi
abe nedumpi like abe nedumpi and it's woo.
Do you know what I used to do nge-firstborn yami Q? I-firstborn yami bekathi umewa ngimshayela izandla. Ngithi sisi, and she grew up with this thing. So for the first 2 to 3 years, she was at home, she had a nanny and she was okay. So, and ngahlalisa phansi umndeni wami, and I told them, but guys, umuntu umewa, it's an achievement. It's an opportunity to get up. If you fall, it's an opportunity to get up. Falling is not the end of the world. It's an opportunity to go to Pidusogo and to reinvent. Not at all. So megewa beshaya izandla. When she got to a crash, yena bekathi umewile ayishayela izandla, because this is what I raised. But she realized ukuthi hayi man, abanye abantwana ecrash umewa bayakhala, and that's where she learned ukuthi kahle kahle abantu abawayo bayakhala. So do you see the power of what we put in as parents ebantwaneni bethu? Do you see ukuthi how important it is to put in izinto ezakhayo kunezibhidlizayo as parents? Don't make your child feel ukuthi umntana kumecathuza umeseqala ukuhamba, and this is now if you are not using a walking ring. Umewa ungishayela izandla ukuthi sisina na so uyabona ukuthi impilo injani sukuma sisibonisa ukuthi uyakwazi ukusukuma. And what does that build in the brain? It builds ama links that teach the person ukuthi even if I fall, I can get up. And if they grew up with this thing, come adulthood, whatever happens in adulthood, uzowa asukume, awe asukume, because she was taught.
Systematically usajwayele engqondweni yakhe ukuthi yes, it's good, it is okay to fall. I remember my son is almost 24. I'm gonna get this video for myself. Woo, this is very interesting. My son is almost 24. I remember there was a time as a crash. Bagibela le insimbi zakhona and they were playing and so forth. And wawa from top lapha and wawa ngekhanda. And makawa bangifonela but sicela uze please, there is something that I understand. On my arrival, my son fell ngekhanda a crash and he's sitting. And mangivela uthi baba bheka ngwile ha ngisikhokho. And the teacher was like, this is abnormal. Awukwazi ukufundisa umntwana ukuthi awe ngekhanda besazibiza isikhokho ukuthi yena akakhalanga, and life just goes on. Because my son ngimkhulisa ngale mentality ukuthi uyisikhokho awukhali, uyisikhokho siyaphusha, uyisikhokho uyabangena. And even today he still lives that life ukuthi baba don't forget wangifundisa ukuthi ngisikhokho ngiyabangena. And I remember vividly a crash awe ngekhanda, and other kids were amazed ukuthi yindaba lo awe ngekhanda angakhalanga.
But if I may correct you there, I think the only thing that you could have, that next time you have a little one, try it this way. Awe akhale.
Right.
No. It's okay to cry. It's okay ukuthi akhale. But they must not think ukuthi ekuweni sekuphelile. Now you need to understand the difference between what I did and what you did. Mina bekathi umewile noma angathi yo mama kubhlungu ngizothi nana kubhlungu. I acknowledge the pain, I acknowledge the feeling, but I then help her to move on, to say feel it, but don't stay there. Feel it, but don't stay there. Now fast forward this, bring it into relationships, and you and I are big on the topic of relationships.
Yes.
Get hurt, but don't stay there. Khala. If it takes 2 days, stay in bed for 2 days. Let it out. Ne? Day 3, uvugugeze ubangene. You understand? So feel the feeling, feel the pain. Get the scar on your knees from crawling, and then when the scar, when you are used to the fact that okay, I've got a scar, acknowledge the scar. I've got the scar. Get up and move on. Because again, asifuni I generation yabantwana abanga acknowledge my feelings.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah. So it has been a roller coaster for today. Now, in conclusion, Sithini about the healing process and getting through isn't as difficult because for some of us it's a learning experience. Some of us we did these things, but yet they actually interact and mental illness, and how do we move forth as individuals, as couples, and also probably as community. Bathanda ukucleana, bathanda ukwenzani, and also we also touched on the issue yama stages as well. What would you say in your conclusion?
In conclusion, I'd like to say, we can sit as people who do mental health and nabantu abafundile and say this is what science says, but every single individual is different. I could have OCD, but it makes me completely functional. It makes me organized. In fact, you can find umuntu in OCD being a top chartered accountant because they pay such attention to detail. You understand? Yes. So OCD is not the end of the world. Paying attention to detail and being a perfectionist does not make you a bad person. It might affect you, but if you put you in the proper environment that nurtures you, we can use that skill to your benefit. You could become the best lawyer. You could become the best surgical doctor because you pay such attention to detail. So I don't want people walking around feeling bad because they've got some sort of mental illness. Don't feel bad. What's important is get help. Sit with a professional, talk to somebody, take medication for the things that require medication, attend therapy. In fact, therapy is not just about somebody okulayo with a mental illness. Can we
Yay.
please normalize talking to professionals? Please,
Yeah.
can we normalize it? Can it be a part of our daily bread? Ukuthi yazini, once a month, ngike ngidlule ku-psychologist, ngike ngihlale ngithole umuntu engiyovula kuye isifuba, offload, get the anger out, get the hurt out, get the trauma out, and move on. Because a lot of us are stuck in places because we are holding on. Imagine pulling a baggage. I'm 38, Q. Imagine pulling 38-year-old luggage. Trauma from when my mother left me at home. I mean, really. There's people walking around with that trauma and they're not even aware.
Yes.
Speak to somebody, let it out, talk therapy. And it's not that maukuluma every time bazokubhalela prescription. Talk to somebody, just let it out. Heal.
Yes. And also the idea of speaking as well. Ngoba thina abantu abamnyama sisanale mentality ukuthi mawukhuluma uyibhari. I was listening to a chap yesterday. He was telling his story ukuthi ukhule kabuhlungu kanjani. It is a children's conversation, an international children's conversation that we normally have with other countries when we start analyzing ukuthi abanye abantu what do they go through. This young man was talking ukuthi ukhule kanzima kangakanani, umamakhe wamshiya, bethi noma mupha imali yokuya esikolweni bekamupha imali eshodayo. So it would mean the boy had to spend almost an hour or two afunana ne-2 rand yokugcwalisa imali yokugibela. 2, maka esikolweni did not have enough food. Makabuye ekhaya umamakhe bekafihla ukudla, and there were times umamakhe bekanokumshiya ahambe aye boyfriendini. And this boy created that mentality ukuthi umamakhe uyamzonda and anything. So we had to intervene and start looking at the issue, and also find out that it also goes back ukuthi umamakhe bekathandana nomuntu, lo muntu lo wamdampa kanti already sekanomntwana. So already umamakho every day makakubheka umkhumbuza uJabu. So i-hatred does not only start there, but sikhuphukela nakuma ngalawo niyahlukumezwa endlini, awuphiwa imali, awuphakelwa and everything. And that boy ukhulina la mentality leyo yagcina semfaka nakuma-drugs. He was just fortunate that he got married. But one of the things that we are advising that boy, go and get help, go and get therapy, go and sit with somebody, open up your chest. Yebo siyambona umfazi wakho uzamile shame, wakucabuza isiphongo wakutshela ukuthi uyakuthanda. But beyond that, you need a professional. Sit down with somebody who's professional, who's able to move from point A to point B, and also go an assessment to make sure that you also heal in that process. Because sometimes if we don't heal, we actually sesigcina sisiyithatha sibuyisela back kubantwana bethu. Umangalo nawe soba nale mentality ukuthi mdlalo nje uyindlavuna mawufika endlini uyibhubesi. So ufika endlini because your father taught you that. Kanti also find out ukuthi the parents bebanama-issues wabo. So thina we are at an advantage. Sinabantu abafana nabozi who are here to help us, give us ideas and opinion on anything. Masifuna counseling, just to sit and open up and cry and be a child. It's okay. Is that what you are saying? Is it that it's okay to cry?
Q, it is absolutely okay to cry. You know, the story you just told me about this man. Funny enough, I was raised in a similar fashion. People don't see it about me, but I've got similar scars. So what I did is I took those scars and they gave me the passion for mental health, because I realized there was nothing young man walking around thinking there was nothing wrong with me. And when I realized I'm not the issue, that was the most liberating thing that ever happened to me. And I'm saying to people, and I'm very boldly putting myself out as an example, to say it doesn't matter how bad your upbringing was. You still have a chance of turning the story around. If I had to sit and write a book about the things I've been through, people would fall over and say, how the hell did you survive? And how did I get there? Through prayer, through talking, through mental health. And for me, foundation, and what I preach in that foundation is, I will be to others what I never had.
Okay.
So everything I didn't have in my childhood, I am being that to other people. Is it easy? No. Does it trigger me sometimes? Yes, it does. But every time lelo nxeba livuka liyaphola, as odd as it sounds. Yes, sikhule ngalento ukuthi izinto kumele zifakwe under the carpet. If if you shelf it, it will never come back. But for me, what I've learned is, every time you face the demon, it actually dies. Kancane kancane. And the Bible says, resist the devil and it will flee from you. But remember, in order for you to resist, you must be looking at this devil. Meaning, face the devil, but don't entertain it. Face it and don't entertain it. So that's the story of my life. That is me every single day, because I'm still healing every single day. So please cry. Ladies, if he hurt you, cry. Block him and then unblock him and then send him a WhatsApp and tell him, Maria's one hater. And then heal and move on. So that when you get into a new relationship, you are healed. Because, guys, there's so much we're taking with us. We're taking it out on our kids. We're taking it out on people who don't know anything about what we've been through. Cry, heal, move on.
And it's important to start on a new shit, always good relationship. It's one of those things, Magesi. We are just glad that we have people of your caliber to advise us, to teach us, to talk to us. We've been hitting this thing, mental illness, for quite a while, and make sure that this is for you, Z. You've been wonderful. You've been wonderful. You've been wonderful. You've been wonderful.
Thank you.
Just yeah. Sabonga kakhulu. Thanks for the applause. I just wanted to make sure to get that applause. Okay. But thanks very much. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your teaching. We'll always make sure that we follow you up. For those who've just joined us, this is Global Q with Z joining us, telling us all sorts of stories about mental illness. If you have missed this show, make sure that you go to our YouTube channel, go to Facebook, go to Twitter, wherever you can get us. We'll try and make sure that we make all of these videos available. It's a teaching not only for you, but also for other people as well. We sometimes know abanye abantu abagulayo who are not right, and at the end of the day, they can actually benefit out of this. One of my biggest teachings that I've been pushing, Z, is that people know ngicela ukuthi abantu bangasabi greedy. Prayer, you don't pray only for yourself, but you also pray for abantwana abase next door as well, because it also affects you. So now today we are also saying the same thing. If you've just joined us, go and get this video. It's a teaching of a lifetime. You can give it to your kids, let them get it, let it analyze it, let them write questions, let it open up a gap, a kaya, to start talking about such issues. Because sometimes umalume ophethwe ile sickness le, auntie ophethwe ile nto le, and you start discussing and opening up with kids so that abantwana bajwayele ukuthi isifo lesi sikhona, mental illness, it is there. It is something that we can treat and we can start learning kancane kancane ngayo. Khona mase sikwazi ukukhuluma nobusilungu obuse-frightening what we are learning, even though it's a tongue twisting tonton, but at the end of the day we learn, and we are very appreciative to people abafana nabo Z. So thanks very much, Z, for your time. Thanks for everything. Thanks to everybody who's been watching. We are meeting tonight. We are talking relationships. Nezangoma. Hey, Z, namhlanje ngipheke okunye namhlanje. People have been asking me ukuthi baneyinkinga, banama-relationship problems, and they have spiritual problems. So namhlanje sipheka lelo bhodo lelo ukuthi, as a spiritual person, how do you go about my relationships? Because labantu bayizangoma nabantu bemithandazo nabaprofit. When it comes to relationship, shame, aye. Yeah. So we'll be talking about it tonight. Make sure that you join us, Bishop Q, Global Talk, 7 o'clock. Smack on the dot. Make sure that you tell a friend. It is a big thing. Q calling the win, but thanks very much for joining us. Put a smile on your face. Z, you've been great once again. Mwah. Love you, my love.
Thank you, Q. Bye to your listeners.